go. Let's go. Don't like that.
Washington, D.C. is being patrolled by authorities and its residents.
Former Trump administration National Security Advisor John Bolton charged today in a federal investigation into the potential mishandling of classified information. Back in August, the FBI searched Bolton's Maryland home and Washington office for classified records he may have illegally retained.
It's Liberation Day in D.C. and we're going to take our capital back.
Why is the FBI here for an MPD arrest?
Locals like Ellie have been documenting incidents and recording arrests.
President Donald Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, has been charged with the mishandling of classified information. Mr. Bolton served as the US president's national security advisor in his first term, but became a fierce critic after he was fired.
Okay, so I need you to sit down for this one. Because what just happened in Washington, D.C. is absolutely insane. Like, we're talking FBI raids, classified documents, Trump cabinet officials getting indicted, and somehow nobody's talking about the real story here. John Bolton. You remember him, right? Bushy mustache guy, former national security advisor? Yeah, that John Bolton. Well, guess what? Federal agents just raided his house in his office, and they found something wild. They seized folders. Get this, labeled Trump I, Trump 2, Trump 3, Trump 4. 4 folders. All with Trump's name on them, plus 2 phones, classified documents about weapons of mass destruction, UN mission files, the whole 9 yards. And now Bolton's sitting on 18 federal counts under the Espionage Act. 18 counts. Let that sink in for a second. But here's where it gets really interesting, because this isn't just about Bolton. Oh no, this is way bigger than one guy with a mustache and a bad habit of keeping secrets. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest, you can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us. Be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video. According to Politico, like literally from today, October 22nd, multiple senior Trump officials are now under review. Multiple, as in this could be the tip of the iceberg. And you know what's crazy? This is all happening less than a year into Trump's second term. Think about that. Trump just got back into office in January 2025, right? He's sitting there in the White House again, probably tweeting about fake news or whatever. And meanwhile, federal agents are raiding his former cabinet members' homes and finding classified documents with his name plastered all over them. Can you believe this? So here's what everyone's missing. The mainstream media, they're going to spin this as former official commits crime, justice served, moving on. But that's not the story. The real story is what those documents contain. Because we're not talking about Bolton's grocery list here. We're talking about materials referencing weapons of mass destruction, strategy memos, UN mission intel. And here's the kicker, potentially implicating other Trump-era officials. Other officials, plural, which means, yeah, this rabbit hole goes deep, real deep. And you want to know the timing on this? The FBI conducted these raids last month, September 2025. The indictment came down October 16th from a Maryland grand jury. That's like, what, 3 weeks ago? And we're just now getting the full picture of what they found. Because guess what? The feds don't raid former national security advisors unless they've got something solid, something big. Now, I know what you're thinking. But wait, isn't Trump the president right now? How is this even happening? Great question. Because here's the thing. Trump might be president, but these documents, they're from his first administration, 2017 to 2021. Ancient history, right? Wrong. Because those chickens are coming home to roost right now, in the middle of his second term. And get this is my favorite part. While all of this is going down, while federal agents are seizing classified Trump documents from his former cabinet members' homes, Trump himself is demanding that the DOJ pay him $230 million. Yeah, $230 million for what he calls wrongful investigations. Come on, are you kidding me right now? So let me get this straight. The Justice Department is actively investigating and indicting people from your first administration for mishandling classified documents, and your response is to demand they write you a check for $250 million? The audacity. The sheer, you can't make this stuff up. But here's why this matters, and I mean really matters, because we're heading into 2026 midterms. Elections are coming, and this story, these raids, these indictments, these classified documents, they're all going to play into the narrative about government accountability, about executive power, about whether Trump's team was running a tight ship or a complete circus. And based on what we're seeing, with 4 folders labeled with Trump's name, sitting in Bolton's home office, with weapons of mass destruction, intel just lying around, Yeah, it's not looking great. The thing is, this isn't even the first time we've seen this pattern. Remember Mar-a-Lago? Remember the boxes and boxes of classified documents stored in bathrooms and ballrooms? That was Trump himself. And now we're finding out his national security advisor was doing the exact same thing, keeping classified files at home, not securing them properly, just treating national secrets like their personal property. So the question becomes, if Trump did it and Bolton did it, who else? How many other people in that first administration walked out with documents they had no business keeping? And more importantly, what were they planning to do with them? Because here's what nobody wants to say out loud. When you keep classified documents after leaving government service, you're not doing it for sentimental reasons. You're not framing them and hanging them on your wall. You're keeping them because they're valuable, either for a book deal or for leverage or for, well, we don't really want to think about the other options, do we? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to break this whole thing down. We're going to look at exactly what the FBI found. We're going to talk about why Bolton had these documents in the first place. We're going to connect the dots to other Trump officials who might be sweating right now. And we're going to figure out what this means for Trump's second term. Because spoiler alert, it's not good. This is the story nobody's telling you. The story behind the raid, the story about what's really in those Trump folders. And trust me, by the end of this, you're going to understand why Washington, D.C. is absolutely losing its mind right now. Let's get into it. All right, so let's talk about what actually went down here. Because the surface level story, FBI raids Bolton, finds classified stuff, Bolton gets indicted, that's boring. That's the version CNN wants you to hear, so you'll nod along and forget about it by tomorrow. But the real story, the one that should have everyone's attention, that's about what was inside those documents and who else might be involved. So first things first, John Bolton. This guy wasn't some random low-level staffer. He was the National Security Advisor. That's like one of the most powerful positions in the entire executive branch. You're advising the president on matters of national security, wars, threats, intelligence operations, nuclear codes, the serious stuff. And Bolton held that position from April 2018 to September 2019, about a year and a half of Trump's first term. Now, during that time, Bolton had access to everything, and I mean everything. Top secret briefings, classified memos, war plans, diplomatic cables, the kind of information that, if it falls into the wrong hands, could literally get people killed or compromise national security operations. And apparently he decided to keep some of it, a lot of it actually. So last month, September 2025, FBI agents show up at Bolton's home in Maryland. They've got a search warrant. They're not playing around, and they start going through his stuff, his files, his office, his personal belongings. And what do they find? 4 folders labeled Trump I, Trump 2, Trump 3, and Trump 4, just sitting there in his house. Along with these folders, they grab 2 phones and a binder marked statements and reflections to Allied strikes, which, yeah, sounds pretty classified to me. But wait, it gets better, because according to CNN's reporting from back in September, the documents inside these folders, they reference weapons of mass destruction, WMDs, the big scary stuff, chemical weapons, biological agents, nuclear materials. We're talking about intel that nations go to war over. And Bolton just had it in his home office like it was his personal scrapbook or something. The FBI also found materials related to the U.S. mission to the United Nations. Remember, Bolton was also the U.S. ambassador to the UN before joining Trump's administration. So he had connections and intel from that world too. Strategy memos, diplomatic communications, the kind of stuff that again should not be sitting in someone's house after they leave government service. Now here's where it gets really interesting and honestly kind of terrifying, because the indictment, which came down on October 16th from a Maryland grand jury, it charges Bolton with 18 counts. 18. That's not a slap on the wrist. That's not oops, I accidentally took home a classified email. 18 counts means the prosecution has evidence of systematic, repeated violations of federal law, specifically the Espionage Act. Yeah, that Espionage Act, the one they use for people who betray their country, the one that comes with serious prison time. Bolton is charged with unauthorized retention of classified material and unauthorized transmission of classified material, which means not only did he keep this stuff, he might have shared it with someone or multiple someones. And that's the part that should have everyone paying attention. Because if Bolton was sharing classified documents, who was he sharing them with? Other Trump officials? Foreign governments? Journalists? His publisher for that tell-all book he wrote about Trump? We don't know yet. But the fact that transmission is in the indictment? Yeah, that's a big deal. Now, let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't happening in a vacuum. According to Politico's reporting from literally today, October 22nd, 2025, multiple senior Trump officials are now under review for mishandling national secrets. Multiple officials, which means Bolton isn't alone. There's a pattern here, a broader issue within Trump's first administration about how classified information was handled, or more accurately, mishandled. Think about it. We've already seen this movie before with Trump himself, right? The classified documents case at Mar-a-Lago, boxes of classified files stored in a bathroom, in a ballroom, just everywhere. And now we're finding out that his national security advisor was doing the same thing, keeping classified documents at home, not securing them properly, potentially sharing them. So the question becomes, how many other Trump cabinet members, advisors, staffers, how many of them walked out of the White House with classified materials they shouldn't have had? And more importantly, why? What were they planning to do with this information? Some people are going to say, well, maybe they just wanted to write their memoirs, document history. And sure, maybe. But here's the thing. There are legal ways to do that. You can request documents be declassified. You can work with the National Archives. You can follow proper procedures. What you can't do is just take classified files home and call it a day. That's illegal. That's what got Bolton indicted on 18 counts. And here's what's really wild about all of this, the timing. Because like I said earlier, Trump is currently serving his second term as president. He got inaugurated in January 2025, so he's been back in office for 9-10 months now. And during that time, he's been going after what he calls the deep state, the career bureaucrats, the federal agencies, the Justice Department. He's been trying to consolidate power, control the narrative, reshape the executive branch in his image. And then bam, FBI raids on his former national security advisor, indictments for Espionage Act violations, documents with Trump's name on them, seized from a former cabinet member's home. It's like the irony is almost too perfect. Trump spends all this time complaining about witch hunts and fake investigations, and meanwhile actual crimes were being committed by people in his own inner circle. But here's my favorite part of this whole saga. And honestly, I laughed out loud when I read this. So while all of this is going down, while Bolton's getting raided and indicted, while other Trump officials are under review, while the FBI is seizing classified documents, Trump decides to demand that the Department of Justice pay him $230 million. Yeah, $230 million. Let me say that again so it really sinks in. $230 million for what he claims were wrongful investigations into him, the Mar-a-Lago documents case, the January 6th investigation, all of it. In Trump's mind, the DOJ owes him $250 million for doing their job. Can you believe this? Like the sheer audacity, the projection. Your former national security advisor just got hit with 18 felony counts for mishandling classified documents with your name on them, and your response is to demand the Justice Department pay you $230 million. The logic doesn't even make sense. But that's kind of the point, isn't it? Because this whole thing, the Bolton indictment, the document seizures, Trump's demand for money, it all paints a picture of an administration that never really took national security seriously, at least not the way they should have. Classified documents were treated like office supplies. Take what you want, keep what you need, share it if it helps your book deal or your future career. And now it's all coming back to haunt them. Because the Justice Department, they don't forget. Federal prosecutors, they're patient. They build cases, they gather evidence, and when they're ready, they strike, which is exactly what happened to Bolton. And based on Politico's reporting, he might not be the last one. So here's what we're looking at. A former national security advisor indicted on 18 Espionage Act charges, multiple other Trump officials under investigation for similar violations, the FBI actively seizing classified documents tied to Trump's first administration, and all of this happening in the middle of Trump's second term, creating a political nightmare heading into the 2026 midterms. Because here's the thing, voters are going to ask, if Trump's own people, his hand-picked advisors, his trusted inner circle, if they were mishandling classified information, keeping documents they shouldn't have, potentially compromising national security, what does that say about Trump's judgment? What does that say about his ability to manage the executive branch to protect America's secrets? And that's not a hypothetical question anymore. It's real. It's happening right now. Federal agents are finding classified documents in people's homes. Grand juries are returning indictments. Prosecutors are building cases. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This isn't fake news. This is actual criminal prosecution of people who worked at the highest levels of government. And you know what else is interesting? The silence. Where are the other Trump officials defending Bolton? Where's the outrage from the MAGA crowd about this being a witch hunt? It's quiet, suspiciously quiet, which makes you wonder, are they staying silent because they can't defend what Bolton did? Or are they staying silent because they're worried they might be next? My money's on option 2, because if you're a former Trump official and you took home any classified documents, even if you thought it was okay at the time, even if you thought you had permission, even if everyone else was doing it, you're probably talking to a lawyer right now. You're probably going through your files. You're probably wondering if the FBI is going to show up at your door next. And that's the story. That's the real story behind the Bolton indictment. It's not just about one guy with a mustache and a box of classified files. It's about a pattern, a culture, a systematic failure within Trump's first administration to treat sensitive information with the respect and security it deserves. And now we're all going to watch as more shoes drop, because if Bolton got caught, if his house got raided and his files got seized, who's next? Okay, so let's break this whole thing down into what actually matters. Because I know we've covered a lot of ground here. FBI raids, classified documents, 18-count indictments, Trump demanding $230 million. It's a lot. So let me give you the key takeaways, the stuff you need to remember when this story inevitably blows up even bigger in the coming weeks. Point number 1, John Bolton is in serious legal trouble. Like serious. 18 counts under the Espionage Act isn't something you just brush off. That's not a fine. That's not community service. We're talking potential prison time, real prison time, because the Espionage Act, that's the big leagues of federal prosecution. That's what they use when you betray your country's secrets, when you put national security at risk. And the evidence is pretty damning. FBI agents found classified documents in his home, documents marked with classification levels, folders labeled with Trump's name, materials about weapons of mass destruction, UN missions, military strikes, the whole package. And here's the thing, Bolton can't claim he didn't know. The guy was national security advisor. If anyone knew what should and shouldn't leave the White House, it was him. So unless Bolton has some incredible defense we haven't heard yet, unless there's some massive piece of exculpatory evidence that's going to come out at trial, yeah, he's probably looking at conviction. And once that happens, it sets a precedent, it sends a message. You can't just walk out of the White House with classified files and think you're untouchable. And you know what? Good. Because for too long, there's been this attitude in Washington that if you're powerful enough, if you're connected enough, the rules don't really apply to you. You can bend them, you can break them, and as long as you have the right friends, as long as you have the right political connections, nothing's going to happen to you. Well, not anymore, at least not with Bolton. The feds came for him, they raided his house, they seized his documents, and now he's facing 18 felony counts. That's accountability. That's what justice looks like when it actually works. Point number 2, this is bigger than Bolton, way bigger. Politico reported today that multiple senior Trump officials are under review for similar violations. Multiple. That word should scare people, because it means the Justice Department has evidence, or at least strong suspicions, that this wasn't an isolated incident. This was a pattern. Think about it. If you're a prosecutor and you find one guy from an administration mishandling classified docs, okay, maybe that's a one-off. Bad apple. But when you start finding multiple people doing the same thing, that's institutional. That's a culture problem. That suggests there was a lax attitude towards security protocols within that administration. And here's what's scary about that. Because if multiple Trump officials took classified documents home, if they kept sensitive materials in unsecure locations, if they potentially shared information they shouldn't have, how much damage was done? How many sources were compromised? How many ongoing operations were jeopardized? We might never know the full extent, but the fact that it happened at all, that's a massive intelligence failure. And let's be real here. This isn't normal. Most administrations, they take classified information seriously. They have protocols, they have oversight, they have people whose entire job is to make sure sensitive materials are handled properly. But Trump's first administration, it seems like that all went out the window. It was chaos. People were taking documents home left and right, and nobody stopped them. Or maybe, and this is the darker possibility, maybe people did know. Maybe there were warnings. Maybe there were protocols in place, and people just ignored them because they thought they were above the rules, because they thought their position protected them, because they thought they'd never get caught. Well, they got caught. Bolton got caught, and now others are getting caught too. And you know what this means politically? It means the 2026 midterms just got a whole lot more interesting, because Democrats are going to hammer this. They're going to say, look, Trump's own people couldn't be trusted with national security. They were reckless. They put America at risk. And honestly, based on what we're seeing, they'd be right. Republicans are going to have to answer for this. They're going to have to explain why so many Trump officials are facing criminal charges, why the FBI is raiding homes and seizing classified documents, why there seems to be this pattern of misconduct. And that's not an easy sell to voters, especially independent voters who care about competence and accountability in government. Point number 3, Trump's response to all of this is, well, it's Trump. Instead of addressing the Bolton indictment head on, instead of saying, yes, this is concerning, we take national security seriously, we'll cooperate with investigators, he goes on the offensive. He demands the DOJ pay him $230 million for wrongful investigations. And look, I get it. That's Trump's playbook. Attack, deflect, never admit weakness, never apologize, never back down. It's worked for him before. It got him elected twice. So why change now, right? But come on. Your former national security advisor just got indicted on 18 Espionage Act charges. There are documents with your name on them that were seized from his house. Other officials from your administration are under investigation. and your response is to demand $250 million from the Justice Department, it's absurd. It's tone deaf. And honestly, it makes him look guilty. Because if you're innocent, if your administration did nothing wrong, you'd welcome these investigations. You'd say, great, let's clear the air. Let's show everyone we followed the rules. But instead, Trump's response is to attack the investigators, to claim persecution, to demand payment. And voters, they're not stupid. They see through this stuff. They understand that when someone acts defensive, when they lash out instead of cooperating, it usually means there's something to hide. So Trump's $230 million demand is probably going to backfire big time. Because here's what people are going to think. Wait, if Trump's so innocent, why is he so angry? Why is he demanding money instead of just cooperating? What's he trying to hide? And once people start asking those questions, once doubt creeps in, it's hard to shake it. Point number 4, the timing of all this is absolutely wild. We're less than a year into Trump's second term. He just got back into office in January 2025. He's supposed to be focused on his agenda, his policies, making America great again, or whatever the slogan is now. But instead, he's dealing with fallout from his first administration, criminal prosecutions of his former advisors, FBI raids, document seizures. It's like the past is haunting him, and it's not going to stop because these investigations, they take time. Trials take time. If Bolton's case goes to court, we're talking months, maybe over a year of proceedings, testimony, evidence, media coverage, all of it dragging Trump's first term back into the spotlight. All of it reminding voters about the chaos, the scandals, the constant drama. And here's the kicker. Trump can't pardon Bolton. Well, technically he could. He's the president. He has pardon power. But politically, it would be suicide. Can you imagine the optics? President pardons former advisor convicted of Espionage Act violations. The Democrats would have a field day. The attack ads would write themselves. So Trump's stuck. He can't save Bolton without destroying himself politically, which means Bolton's probably going to face the full weight of the justice system. And if he goes down, if he gets convicted and sentenced, other Trump officials are going to get nervous, real nervous, because they'll be thinking, if they got Bolton, they might come for me next. And that kind of fear, it makes people do interesting things. It makes them cooperate. It makes them cut deals. It makes them talk. So here's what I think is going to happen. Over the next few months, we're going to see more indictments, more raids, more documents seized, more Trump officials from the first administration getting caught up in legal trouble. It's going to be a steady drip of bad news for Trump, and each new development is going to reinforce the narrative that his administration was reckless with national security. And by the time we get to the 2026 midterms, this is going to be front and center. Republicans are going to have to defend Trump's record. They're going to have to explain why so many of his advisors are facing criminal charges, why classified documents were mishandled, why national security was treated like a joke. And that's a tough sell, especially to independent voters, especially to people who care about competence in government. Now, does this mean Trump's presidency is doomed? No, he survived worse. He's Teflon Don. Nothing sticks. But it does mean his second term is going to be defined, at least in part, by cleaning up the mess from his first term, by dealing with the consequences of decisions made years ago, by watching his former allies get indicted and prosecuted. And you know what? Maybe that's justice. Maybe that's how it should be. Because if you break the law, if you mishandle classified information, if you violate the Espionage Act, if you put national security at risk, you should face consequences. Even if you're a former national security advisor, even if you're connected to the president, even if you think you're too important to be held accountable, the law should apply equally to everyone. So yeah, that's the story. John Bolton indicted on 18 counts, multiple Trump officials under investigation, the FBI seizing documents with Trump's name on them, and Trump responding by demanding $230 million from the people prosecuting his former advisors. It's chaos. It's drama. It's exactly what we've come to expect from anything Trump related. But here's the thing. This isn't just entertainment. This isn't just political theater. This is about national security, about classified information, about trust in government. And when that trust is broken, when people in power abuse their positions and mishandle sensitive materials, there have to be consequences. Bolton's facing those consequences now. Others will follow. And Trump, he can demand all the money he wants. He can claim persecution. He can attack the deep state. But the facts remain. Documents were mishandled. Laws were broken. And now justice is catching up. So buckle up, because this story is just getting started. More indictments are coming. More shoes are going to drop. And by the time it's all over, we're going to know exactly how deep this rabbit hole goes. We're going to know who else was involved. And we're going to see whether Trump's second term can survive the ghost of his first. Stay tuned.